Hello, this is Jay Spillers. Welcome to Inspire Me with Jay. My special guest is Lisa Erickson. Lisa, introduce yourself.
Hi, Jay. Well, I'm glad to be here. And I am what's called an energy worker and a meditation teacher. I focus on different types of meditation, including contemplative methods that involve what's called the chakras or energy centers in the body. So that's the energy work portion. And I work a lot with women and with trauma healing, although I do also work with men. I also work regarding stress management and goal manifestation, and in addition to healing. So, yeah.
What got you into meditation initially?
My own meditation journey began soon after college. Actually, I had encountered some meditation in college as part of a yoga class over 30 years ago, which at the time was very unusual. Now there are a lot of yoga classes. A lot of them incorporate meditation. That's the way a lot of people are first introduced to meditation. At the time, it was somewhat unusual. After college, I started experiencing a lot of headaches. When I entered the workforce, I was on a computer a lot, which at the time was also somewhat unusual. And my doctor attributed them to stress. So someone told me, oh, meditation can help with stress. So I sought out a meditation class, and it did help me manage my stress by helping me relate to my thoughts and emotions differently when they arose. Over time, I got interested in other kinds of meditation, including chakra or energy center meditation, and it became part of a spiritual and personal growth journey that eventually transformed into a career as I got training in teaching and energy healing.
So, how would you define meditation? Because I've heard so many different definitions of meditation.
Yeah. That's complicated because there's so many different methods and forms. They each take a different pathway, but they really all are based on us beginning to control our attention and learning how to quiet our mind and to relate to our thoughts differently. We take them for granted. They run through our head. Whatever we're thinking, whatever we're feeling is where all of our attention is. And what meditation is practice for connecting with that level of your mind that the thoughts and emotions are occurring in, so that you start having this sense of choice, like, oh, that thought arose. I don't have to follow that thought. That angry emotion arose. I actually have some space, some choice to breathe through it until it passes. So this is really what meditation is about, all the different forms, learning to relate to your thoughts and emotions differently. As you do that, you begin to discover your thoughts and emotions are not all you are. And so that's when it may, for some people, start to cross into a spiritual journey, because they realize they're experiencing something else besides their thoughts and their emotions. And what is that? For other people, it stays in that realm of, okay, when I am able to let go of certain thoughts and emotions, I can manage my stress better, or I can manage my pain better, or I can change my thoughts as part of a personal growth or a goal. A goal that I'm trying to reach. I need to let go of the thoughts that are making me doubt myself, right? So meditation can be incorporated into all of these different realms of someone's healing or personal growth path.
But does it seem like meditation can help with virtually anything? Because you have a possible spiritual growth from it. You can have mental and physical benefits. But you can also have self-discovery, and there's been pain management for people with chronic pain. Is it virtually open to anything with meditation in terms of what it can do for you?
Absolutely, because it really addresses the different ways that we suffer, right? If we have physical pain, yes, there are medications that can help with that pain. The reason meditation or certain types of meditation help with pain management is they help you relate differently, because what we've done when we've studied pain, we've realized there's the actual nerves that are aggravated, that is the pain. And then there's our response to that pain, which is to grip our muscles, get tense, and that actually magnifies the pain. So what meditation helps you do is go, oh, okay, no, here's pain. I don't have to get even more stressed out and afraid when I feel pain. If I relax, the pain actually reduces. Then I'm just dealing with the physical phenomena, and that's not all I am. Then it's the exact same thing with emotions, a difficult emotion, grief or anger or sadness. You can learn to be with it without it overtaking you. Then it's the same with your thoughts. You're having thoughts, oh, I can't do that. Oh, I'm an idiot. Oh, I'm ugly. Oh, I'm this, whatever it is. You start learning, oh, I don't have to listen to those thoughts. I can actually learn to let them go. So whatever kind of suffering someone is experiencing, mindfulness and meditation can help them learn how to not identify with it. Then when you do that, that's the step to change, right? Because then you can start going, how do I change those thoughts? How do I change those emotions? So all of that is, you could say, more psychological than spiritual. For some people, I think it crosses over into the spiritual. For some people, it doesn't. It's really almost simply a mental health practice.
Yeah, I mean, I think with meditation, you can have someone that isn't very religious or spiritual, that just does it for mental health, but you can use it in a spiritual way because you have focus on things like love and kindness and values that are shared across religious and spiritual, um, different religious and spiritual traditions. And anyone can practice meditation regardless of your religion, whether you're Christian, Buddhist, Jewish, anything, I think could potentially practice, and it wouldn't be a conflict with their religious beliefs, I don't believe.
I believe that too. I mean, things like mindfulness are really taught as a secular practice. They don't have a theology around them. But what's interesting is we do find different forms of meditation in every religion. Every religion has some form of practice that is meditation based. Either involves maybe a chanting or repeating a spiritual prayer or counting rosary beads. All of those actually are a kind of meditation because they are about having a point of focus that quiets down your mind. So I do believe that everyone can find a form of meditation that is either non-religious or that fits with their religious beliefs.
So if someone was just starting out to meditate, what would you recommend for them to do? What kind of techniques or ways of starting meditation would you suggest to them?
Yeah. The starting point for most people that is the most effective is basic breath-based meditation. And sometimes mindfulness courses focus on this first, and there's so many resources now for a basic mindfulness course. I mean, many hospitals are teaching it, colleges are teaching it, community centers, or there's of course books and online courses. But you can even just try it on your own, sitting down for 5 to 10 minutes and trying to align your spine, get yourself comfortable in an upright position, lower or close your eyes, and just begin to follow your breath in and out, perhaps focusing on the rise and fall of your belly. Some people like to put their hands on their belly, and every time your mind wanders, you just pull it back, and your mind wanders again, and you pull it back. And that act of pulling it back is actually your meditation practice. It's building up that muscle of pulling your attention back to your breath and your belly. And that's the simplest form of meditation that anyone can do anywhere, right? And it just begins to change your relationship to your thoughts and emotions, like we talked about. Now, there's all these other forms of meditation, focusing on the chakras, the energy centers in the body that I do a lot of, has other benefits because you're focusing on energy centers associated with energy medicine. There's meditations where you focus on a visual. Some people are very visual and they like gazing, for example, a candle flame or a picture like this, mandalas like this. For those that can see, I know some are listening without picture, but for those who can see, I have a mandala, which is a symmetrical drawing, a circular drawing. Those are designed for meditation. People who are very visual may like having that visual item to gaze. So I do think it's important to experiment a little bit and see what form of meditation works the best for me. But the starting point is always the breath and that anchor point of pulling your awareness back over and over to whatever you decide to focus on.
Do you recommend music in meditation? Because there's all kinds of meditation type music you can find out there. Do you like to meditate with music or just have silence?
I've gone through phases. I used to meditate to music a lot, especially when I lived in a city where it was quite loud. Now I tend to meditate with silence. I think, again, it's a personal choice, and there's pros and cons to both. Music can help create a very relaxing feeling and shield out environmental noise that may be problematic. On the other hand, you don't have music out there when you're trying to relax out at your job, right? So if you're trying to use your meditation to learn how to manage stress, at some point you may be better off meditating in silence and noticing how you react to that garbage truck driving down the street, because you can learn to let go of the irritation at that noise. And that may be helpful to you then later on in your day, that practice at letting go of an irritation. So I think it's really about your goals and what works for you.
So if someone says to you, I can't sit still for very long, because I've heard a lot of people say, I can't meditate because I can't sit still. Or the second one is, I'm just too distracted when I'm trying to meditate. What do you say to them?
Yeah. Well, everyone is distracted. That is the nature of the human mind, right? And it wants to be busy. It wants to go after gratification. We're used to now our phones and social media where we're sort of swiping and we're getting a different interaction every 10 seconds. And so that's something everyone's dealing with. And if you sit down for 10 minutes and you think for 2 minutes, and then you pull your mind back for 10 seconds, and then you think for 2 minutes, and then you pull your mind back for 10 seconds, and you do that over and over, that's still valuable. That is, 5 times in that 10 minutes that you pulled your mind back. And that's a muscle you're trying to build. And it's just like going to the gym. The first time you go to the gym, and you do 5 bicep curls, your biceps don't get bigger, right? You have to do it over time. You'll get better and better at pulling your mind back. So people have to sort of let go of the idea that they're a bad meditator if they sit down and their mind wanders, right? It's a lifetime practice, just like exercise, that's just good for you. And over time, you see results, but they're not always right away. Sometimes they are, right? I think in terms of the physical restlessness, there's walking mindfulness that can be very helpful to people, where you sort of walk very slowly, maybe just even in a circle in your bedroom, as a walking meditation. Or some people will rock a little bit. And if that helps you, I think it's perfectly okay, especially at the beginning, to incorporate a little bit of that into your practice.
Well, it's sort of, you have to be patient with yourself and patient with the process, and celebrate even little victories, like what you're saying. If you meditate for 10 minutes and let's say 1 or 2 minutes are more focused, well, that's celebrate that, and build from that.
Exactly. It's interesting. It really is just like exercise. We're discovering now, a 10-minute walk a day is still better than no walk at all, right? So 10 seconds of quieting your mind is still better than never doing it all day long, right? So you just have to sort of do what you can do and appreciate the benefits over time of that.
And when do you think people should be able to start to see results? Because people are always wondering about, how long is this going to take before I start to see results in my life?
Yeah, I think that's very individual, but I will say, for example, in medical studies, the bar that's usually used is 8 weeks or so, like when they do studies about trying to help people lower their blood pressure through meditation. They usually use the bar of meditating 20 minutes a day for 8 weeks. And at that point, they see measurable results. Now, many people, they can't start out at 20 minutes every day, right? So if you're doing 10 minutes 3 times a week, it may take longer before you get benefits, right? I think what happens is almost anyone in the first 3 months has some sort of experience in meditation that shifts them in some way. That's been my experience. I mean, that's not a hard and fast rule. Once you have that, then it makes it easier to build the routine, which is everything. Building in that routine is really everything.
But I think it's sort of the long term and the short term that you can receive benefit from the very first time you meditate. It may be very short lived, but you might feel, oh, I am less stressed, I'm more at peace. But then you'll start to see long term benefits as you consistently meditate over time. And I have heard studies where they say the frontal cortex of the brain thickens and your brain chemistry starts to change in positive ways as you consistently meditate over a period of time.
Exactly. Yeah. And a lot of those physical changes, that does require repetition and time, right? Just like exercise, you go to the gym once, your body doesn't change, right? You go to the gym over the course of a year, your body will. And it's the same with your brain and with your nervous system. You're trying to rewire your stress response. And that does take time and repetition, but it will happen.
So, in terms of energy work, how does what is the energy that you're tapping into? Is it, because I mean, I kind of hear like energy medicine. Is it sort of like when people pray and they receive an answer to prayer, because people pray, they've done studies like in hospitals where people have prayed for healing and they've noticed like the ones that were prayed for versus the ones not prayed for. The ones that are prayed for tend to recover faster and do better. Is it sort of like you're tapping into the energy of God or the universe or something like that when you're doing energy medicine?
Yeah, I think, it's interesting because there's 2 different branches that the energy teachings come to us from. One is energy medicine, and there's a level of the body that connects to the physical body. And if you've heard of things like Tai Chi and Qigong, these are practices that, and yoga for that matter, came from this idea of that we have another anatomy, an energy anatomy in addition to our physical anatomy. And through various practices, we can attain greater health and vitality through our energy body and through certain kinds of meditation and physical movement. Then you have the spiritual practices. And the spiritual practices were more about having mystic experiences, and you move energy through your body. And that's more what you're speaking to. In the Eastern traditions, it's called Kundalini. In Western traditions, it's more commonly referred to as grace, right? That people feel something when they pray. And they may even feel a warmth in their heart or something like that. And that energy is a spiritual energy. So we have both this physical vitality energy and this spiritual energy, and different energy-based practices are meant to help you connect with one or the other or both. But they really are kind of 2 different lines historically of practices.
So which one do you tend to work with more?
I work with both. I mean, my own meditation practice at this point, it has become a center point of my own spiritual practice. I study Buddhism and meditation. In that regard, you are using meditation as a way of experiencing what you might call source energy, right? But in my client practice, I work a lot with emotional healing. I work a lot with individuals who've experienced trauma of different types. Then what we're focused on is how anxiety or other kinds of patterns may feel locked in the body or may get triggered in certain situations. And how do we help someone release the energy patterns and rewrite the energy patterns of that anxiety or certain situations? So that is drawing more on the energy medicine side of things. So I really do work with both. And, we're all multifaceted beings. So some people want both. Some people just want one or the other. It's really about where the individual is at in their life.
So in terms of energy healing and meditation, sometimes you'll hear like a guided meditation where it'll say, it'll have the light go down and, to different parts of your body and sort of as healing. Is that sort of a visualization where you can sort of draw the energy where you need it? Like if you have an ache or a pain or you're feeling anxiety, you can move it to your heart or your head and just kind of see it
Yeah.
clearing out. Is that sort of starting to work with energy medicine?
Yeah. Exactly. It's without naming, perhaps without naming the different parts of your energy anatomy, it's having you focus on different chakras. And by visually and bringing your attention to that part of your body and using a visual of light with your intention, you're creating this link and activating a certain energy. Each different points in the body, just like we have physical pressure points that masseuses use, for example, we have different points in our energy body that when we bring our awareness to that part of our body releases different kinds of energies. So if you're trying to soothe, if someone has a headache, a tension headache, we might bring the energy down to the heart chakra or energy center. When we focus there, releases very soothing energy that might be helpful for a headache, different things like that. And so there are different contemplative practices that help with different physical healing. And then there's ones that help more with emotional healing.
So what, in a nutshell, is the chakras and how do they work exactly?
Yeah. So the chakras are energy centers. The actual word chakra is a Sanskrit word from ancient India that means wheel of light. But really, what's fascinating is that traditions all over the world have had energy center mappings, and they correspond in many cases if you compare them. Systems that were created on different parts of the world thousands of years ago have so many common points. So that's so interesting. But the chakra mappings that really are the ones that have really caught on in the West and are the most popular are related to yoga traditions. And they really center most of them on 7 chakras in the physical body. There are variations on that number, and there are some traditions that include out-of-body chakras. But the 7 chakra mapping is the most common, with 7 energy centers, main energy centers, I should say, going from the bottom of your torso all the way up to the top of your head, kind of in a column all the way up. And the first one is, sort of right around the tailbone or right in front of the tailbone, the second in the pelvis, the third in the navel or solar plexus area, the fourth in the chest or heart area, the fifth in the throat, the sixth in the forehead, and the seventh at the top of the head. And each of them is linked to different emotional themes, different physical organ systems, different spiritual energies. So depending on what you're working with, you may be focusing on one or more chakras to bring forth particular energies that you need.
And so, like in martial arts, sometimes they'll talk about getting in touch with the chi to increase power. Is the chi is usually like around the stomach or navel area? That's one of the chakras then? Your inner chi?
Yeah. Yeah, there's the third chakra. Some systems like to use the focal point for that as the solar plexus right under the rib cage. Some like it just below the navel. Either way, the third chakra covers that whole area. I like to use the focal point just below the navel because that does correspond to the chi center of martial arts. And so that particular chakra, that's exactly what it's linked to: personal power, a sense of will, determination, also boundaries with other people, linear function, executive function in terms of being able to do tasks. It's a very yang or action-oriented chakra. So if someone's struggling with any of those areas, they might spend extra time focusing on that particular chakra. It's a little more complicated in that when it comes to healing, but on a basic level, that's one way to use the chakras. What energies are sort of weak in my life that I need more of? And that's where I'll focus the most.
Well, and would that sort of be connected, like when you look at self-development and trying to get the confidence to move forward, you're sort of connecting with your chi and with some of the different chakras?
Exactly. And there may be layers to that kind of process. So in that case, you might be focusing on your navel chakra more because it is associated with confidence. And yes, I can go out there in the world and do this. But it could also be that you need to do some healing around what caused the patterns of lack of confidence. Is there experiences from childhood or emotional wounds that need healing? In which case, that might be heart work. We might be working with the heart to help someone really have a sense of worthiness, because perhaps abuse in the past has left them with a feeling of unworthiness. So it could be a combination of things that we're working with. So in that sense, it is almost a psychotherapeutic process, and the chakras can be helpful for identifying where do I have obstructions? Where am I naturally gifted? You go through the chakras one at a time and use them as a framework for that.
And is that sort of connected to what they're kind of finding in modern medicine, that all memory is not stored in the brain? There's memory that's stored in the heart and different parts of your body. Is that sort of like getting into chakras as well?
From my perspective, yes. I don't think modern medicine is quite there yet. But from the perspective of chakra traditions, that's always been the case, right? It's always been a holistic or a whole body thing. And what's so fascinating now is that trauma healing in particular, they've realized you need to do what's called somatic healing. When people experience, for example, post-traumatic stress disorder triggers, when they feel anxiety, they feel it in their stomach or their whole body tensions, or they feel as if the memory of the traumatic event is stored in other parts of their body. It's not just a memory in their head. So from my perspective, that does tie to the subtle body, the energy body, and the chakras. And part of what we're doing with the chakras is trying to help clear out that kind of stored memories that are difficult from the energy body, from the physical body.
And so when you have trauma stored in your body, are those the kind of things that can lead to cancer and heart disease and the various physical things we see?
Yeah, from an energy medicine perspective, it's a contributing factor. I would never say that's what causes it. Within holistic medicine, we're always looking at mind, body, and spirit is all connected. So there could be a genetic proclivity for a certain cancer, environmental factors that create a greater risk for that cancer. And then in addition, these emotional patterns stored in the body that contribute. And we know that individuals who experienced abuse or trauma are actually at higher risk for certain diseases. The stress response in their body, based on the past trauma or abuse, compromises the immune system. So we are this multi-layered being, and all these different factors contribute to disease or to health. So when you're working to heal, you want to work on all these levels, the physical level with medicine, right? But also the emotional and energetic level to give yourself the best chance at healing. I'm not one to ever advocate, only do energy healing. Don't do medicine. No, I believe you have to work with the physical, the emotional, and the spiritual.
And I think I read on your profile that you work with people that have been sexually abused, sexual trauma. Do you find a lot of good results with sexual trauma, releasing pain from within? Did I lose you?
I'm sorry, Jay, I lost you there for a minute. I don't know if it's your
Yeah, I
connection
was
or
just
mine.
asking. Yeah.
Can you repeat that question?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was just asking about, in terms of sexual trauma, is that very much like PTSD, and it's within the body, and you can help release people from some of that trauma?
Absolutely. It's very much stored in the body. And unlike other types of traumatic events, like a car accident or being a war veteran, it's so often kept secret, right? Those things are people know about, right? You were in a car accident, you were in a war, you were the victim of a crime. So often with sexual abuse or trauma, it's a secret someone's been holding. And so then it's even more trapped sometimes in the body. And helping to release that is so key. So also, I think for many sexual trauma survivors, male and female, or however someone identifies, there's a feeling of not being safe in the body, right? The body was actually the site of the trauma. And so that kind of shakes the foundation, which is the root chakra. So we'll often be doing a lot of root chakra work to help someone feel safe in the body again. It's like the foundation of the house. And if it's not strong, someone feels that throughout all the different areas of their life.
And if you don't feel safe in your body, is that where you're more prone to drug or alcohol addictions or eating disorders? Because you're trying to escape your body in a sense.
Exactly. And in psychological world, we call it different methods of disassociating from the body. The body doesn't feel safe. We don't feel we can handle certain emotions, certain triggers, certain experiences. So we develop patterns of disconnecting from it. That might be drugs or alcohol. It could be video games, it could be a lot of different things that people use to disassociate. And so chakra work, I find, can be very beneficial to helping someone get back in their body. They feel more comfortable focusing on the energetic first. And as they get comfortable with that, then they're able to focus on the physical. So for other people, it's the reverse, and actual physical modalities are more helpful to them. But for a lot of people, focusing on the energetic level can be this bridge, if they're highly disassociated, to getting more physical and getting more comfortable and feeling safe with being present in their physical body.
Well, with a lot of your work, are you working in conjunction with other professionals? Like, is there usually like a psychologist or a counselor? Are there other people you're sort of on a team with in many of these situations?
Yeah, I'm not actually on a team, but most of my clients, especially if they've experienced sexual trauma, have either already done talk therapy and now they're looking for something else, because in the talk therapy, they surfaced the narrative. They became able to talk about what happened. They perhaps remembered as much as they're going to remember. They've worked through it on that level. And yet they feel in their daily lives, they're still experiencing triggers. So they're looking for, how do I take it to the next level where I'm able to have tools to work with releasing this trigger as it's arising. Other clients are in therapy at the same time they're doing energy work, and they just want to approach it from a holistic perspective. Sometimes I'll have someone who is resistant to talk therapy and just wants to do energy work. And I usually try to get them into therapy at the same time. It's really individual.
Well, and in terms of like illness or disease, have you ever worked with someone that had cancer and were able to get that in remission through energy work?
Well, I've worked with many individuals with cancer, but my personal policy is I will not work with someone who has cancer unless they are also receiving medical treatment. Now, not all energy workers work that way. That is the way I work, because I view it as a complementary modality. In some cases, that might be an alternative modality, but they are working in some way with a physical health care practitioner. How I view it with something like cancer, within energy medicine traditions, it does have a very strong energetic component. It's often about the body trying to contain negative energy. But once it's manifested as cancer at the physical level, that's the densest level of our being. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to address it purely energetic. You need to address it physically because it's manifested physically. What you're doing energetically, however, is helping the body and psyche recover and healing the underlying patterns that may have contributed to that cancer developing in the first case. So you have a lower risk of it recurring. Now, are there studies proving that? You know, it's difficult. I hope in coming decades, we will have more structured studies on a holistic approach to treatment. We don't have that many right now. So I do have many clients who, you know, are in remission, but they've been getting other treatment too. So we'll never know if they had just done that, what would have happened, right?
Mhm. Well, so do you sometimes have people doing 3 different kinds of treatment? Because you'll have traditional medicine, you'll have sort of the homeopathic alternative medicine, and then energy medicine, doing all 3 elements at the same time?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So a common thing for example, a cancer survivor might be they are choosing to get the surgery and the chemotherapy because they've been told, you know, this is very risky for you to wait. They're using then perhaps herbal medicine and acupuncture to help manage the side effects of the chemotherapy, because acupuncture and herbal medicine have been very effective at that, as well as in reducing their risk of the cancer recurring. And then they're working with me energetically to support their body's immune system and energy system, their vitality, to speed healing and to release the underlying emotional or energetic patterns that may have contributed to the cause of the cancer. So that's a lucky person if they can do all 3 of those. I feel like that's how everyone should be treated. Unfortunately, not everyone has access to all of that. But I hope that that is how, you know, medicine will evolve, that we really treat people, mind, body, and spirit with everything we have, with everything we have.
So do you ever get a client referred to you from a medical doctor that, you know, suggests energy work too, or does that ever happen? Or does the client just usually come in on their
No,
own?
more from therapists. Yeah. Most come on their own. Some have been referred to by therapists. I do have certain therapists that refer to me, or a therapist might generally say, oh, you could benefit from meditation. And they don't want to spend time in the therapy session teaching them meditation. So that's some of the people. But, you know, I have a couple books and courses out. So a lot of people come to me through those on their own.
Mhm. And what a lot of people have heard about Reiki healing. Is that similar to what you do? Do you do Reiki or Reiki?
Right, Reiki. Yeah, no, I'm trained in Reiki. I actually don't really utilize it in that formal way very much, although it certainly informs my training. That's very much about directing and channeling, being a conduit for healing energy into someone's body. I'm more focused on that emotional piece. So I'm more focused on what you feel in an actual situation in your life and working with the memory of that, where it brings up triggers in your energy body, and then working to release it. So I tend to work with other contemplative practices that are collaborative, meaning I am guiding the client to go into a memory, feel how they feel it in their body, bring light to it, transform it, send healing to it. It's something that we are doing together so that they have practices they're using outside of the session when that emotion arises in daily life. And that's how we rewrite that pattern.
So is it like when they come in, you have a session for like an hour and they sit down and basically you guide them in a meditation and through a process working with chakras and different things like that?
Exactly. And most of it now I'm doing, you know, Zoom and phone. I always did work a lot by phone and Zoom, but now I do even more post-pandemic. And most people prefer that now to be in the privacy of their own home. And yes, we generally are talking for a while. If it's initial sessions, we're going through history, and then we're working with different situations that have arisen in their life or in their past, and we're using that as our springboard. And in my workshops, we can't get into like individual things like that, but we will be working with, okay, we're going to work with anxiety, right? And I'm going to guide you through a chakra sequence for transforming your anxiety and different things like that.
I don't know if you could speak to it, but what is the difference between hypnotherapy and guided meditation? because they seem obviously very similar. And I've talked to a few hypnotherapists in the past, and it seemed like it's a form of
Yeah.
guided meditation.
I think there are a lot of crossovers. I know there have been some brain studies done, and they do seem to actually work with different parts of the brain, though, is my understanding, although I'm not an expert in it. So they do work with different parts of the brain. Of course, in hypnotherapy, usually it's being used to sort of help someone reprogram a certain part of their brain, right? Whereas in meditation, you might eventually use it for that, but it's more about changing your relationship to your thoughts and your emotions, and you're doing it yourself, right? So I do think they can work together, and there's probably a lot of crossover, but they're not they don't have exactly the same goal, right? And the path there is different.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, well, thanks for coming on today. We appreciate having you.
Thank you, Jay. I always
Oh,
love talking about these topics. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, where can people reach you? Do you have a website? Are you on social media? What kind of sites can people reach you on?
Yes. All of the above. My website is called enlightenedenergetics.com. I am on Facebook and Instagram as Chakra Empowerment, and Twitter as Mommy Mystic. And my book, which you can get anywhere, but it's definitely on Amazon, but it's other places as well. My two books are called Chakra Empowerment for Women, and the other one is called The Art and Science of Meditation by Lisa Erickson.
Okay, yeah. So I'll go ahead and make sure I post them. Thanks for being on.